audio and videotaped. As we did a month ago, we're going to do our regular business and then move into the PJ Keating matter, which I assume you're all here for. I'm Dave Vignan, acting chair. Volunteers to my right, Army Force to my left. Agent Joe Correa. We have town council at the end of the table, Jeff Blake and Yolanda Hammer. We'll be taking our notes. First order of business. Yes, sir. Over here. Correspondence, letter from community nursing and for statistics. Yeah. Second. All in favor? Aye. Next we have discussion in Southeast Public Health Collaborative, sunscreen stations, review matters presented, those meetings taken. Joe, if you want to take it from here?
Yep. So through our grant and through our collaborative with New Bedford and the Haven, we were able to secure 5 of the sunscreen stations. This is the placard that's going to go behind it. At this moment, I've already talked to Chad Claire about putting some of them over at Hope Park. And I had thought putting one over Lake Street, and then one other thought was something that we have a huge festival, keep one around in case it gets broken, and then use that after beach, but leave it up to you guys too.
Yeah, I got one, and I made a postcard and all, so I'm gonna instead of that end, this is Dave, and that from Acushnet. So I put one up there to let people run on the road, they can just stop, because they got the sign for COVID and ticks. So I put that right alongside of it, and they go by it.
Okay.
I just finished it up. Very good. Motion to file?
Second. All in favor? Aye. Approval of minutes, we have none. Approval of septic design plans, subdivision plans, we have none. That brings us to appointments, PJ Keating, provide the board with update of plan operation, review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Before we begin, I'd like to rein in what happened last time. I'm going to let PJ Keating finish what they have to say, and then we'll take it to the audience. I'd like to keep it civil, I'd like to keep it orderly, and if it's not, I'm just going to close the hearing. I kind of let it get out of control last time. So, with that being said, if you want to speak, please stand up, state your name, address for the record. And please, any questions to PJ Keating come through the chair. So with that, Mr. Legier, floor is yours.
Excuse me for a second. You're gonna have to leave.
Okay. Let the record reflect Mr. Maderas is exiting the meeting at 5:05.
Those are your glasses, right?
No, I keep forgetting my glasses.
I know how that goes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Luke Legere, McGregor, Legere, and Stevens, on behalf of the PJ Keating Company. As you know, we are here, as we were about a month ago, to give you a status report and update on the operation of the HMA plant under the agreed upon terms. We've got another presentation here that we'll use to sort of speak from. The first set several slides are really reiterating stuff you've seen previously, so I'll try to go quickly through those. Certainly, if you have any questions,
We can skip regurgitation.
Sure, that's the idea. That's the idea. So without further ado, I'll just get going. Just a real quick point off the top. There was some discussion last time around odors and standards. We just wanted to sort of bring this back, put it in context for the board and for the public as well. A couple of years back, when we were before the board for a hearing on the cease and desist order, town council had read this statutory language to the board, essentially establishing the standard, the legal standard under which we were considering this. So we just wanted to present that again, just as a sort of a reminder for everybody, including ourselves. That's hopefully going to help keep things in context here as the conversation unfolds. As we mentioned last time, we're talking about asphalt here, central business and industry. We all use it every day, everywhere we go. Real quick on the upgrades to the HMA plant prior to this season. Heating had invested a significant amount of capital in improvements to the plant over the past couple of years prior to opening this year. We've listed those out here, closing the loadout area, improving the source evacuation system, particulate matter, being, I think, on the filters being the main one. Initial indications from our consultant are that everything looks great. There's no reason to expect anything other than excellent feedback once we get that testing, but we're just waiting for it. And again, in our view, I think this really helps to illustrate that there isn't that correlation between increased production and odor that folks were a little worried about when we spent some time talking about last night.
Move if I may.
Yeah.
The DEP we had representatives from Mass DEP on site during the sessions.
So yeah, DEP was on site during the staff testing.
How long was that duration?
It was pretty much the day. You do a series of runs, and then we shut down, and they put in different probes, and so we have to do 3 runs, and those intervals were about 90 minutes or so.
It was 90 minutes.
To run, right? So, so by the time they go up and pull the probes and bring it back down, and then we go back up, and then we fire the plant up again. So
We never stopped.
yeah. So we never
We
stopped.
never stopped.
You just kept mixing.
We just kept on running,
Right.
but
And they changed the probes and so forth. The filter media, which measures the opacity, so the pads, they go in and look at that, and we give them all of that information, and those pads were.
Okay, so some more details that we promised to share with the board on a monthly basis. During the month of June, the plant operated 19 days. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the 6th would have been the only weekday during June that the plant was not in operation. So Monday to Friday, pretty much every week except for that one day. Only 3 complaints were received during the month of June. On 3 different days, 1 complaint each. June 12th, a complaint was filed, which was described as a fleeting odor. With heating falling up, it was gone already. Another complaint was filed on the 13th. I believe that was one where there was no description. Whoever filed the complaint didn't identify himself. So heating couldn't really follow up specifically, but heating employees did do a survey of the surrounding neighborhoods. They did note that there was a faint fleeting odor, but again, nothing that was lasting. It was, you'd smell it and then it was gone. And then June 25th was the final complaint that was filed during the month of June. Again, happy to report it was another fleeting odor. By the time heating followed up a few minutes after receiving a complaint, the resident said, it smelled, doesn't smell anymore. And during the course of the conversation, was asking a little bit about the suppression agent that he heard about and observed that it seemed to be wrong. So that was a good conversation with the individual who filed that. And again, just kind of trying to put a finer point on the issue of production levels and how those might or might not correlate to odors and odor complaints. And really, as we get more information, we're seeing that there is no correlation, is the bottom line. During the month of June, the plant never ran below 300 tons an hour. So as I mentioned, it's rated up to 500 tons an hour. During the stack testing, it was about 400. They never dipped below 300 during the month of June, and still got very few complaints, and even those just for passing odors. By comparison, during the month of May, almost half the days that heating was in operation were below that 300 ton per hour threshold. And we just kind of took a couple snapshots of from the months of May and June, essentially week-long periods that were sort of the highest or more or less the highest periods of production. And so from June 14th to the 24th, which was 7 days of operation, heating was running at an average of 336 tons per hour, about 67%. No complaints. Similarly, during May, 5 operating days from the 22nd to the 29th, running at a lower ton per hour rate, as I mentioned earlier. We're a little lower in May, so about 63% capacity to 67. But again, no complaints. So I know that was something that was discussed last time, and we just wanted to give you some numbers here to illustrate the point we had made, which is there really isn't that correlation that folks were concerned about. We talked really last time about the actions that heating takes to address complaints. These are generally, the general ones are essentially the same. So when a complaint's filed, assuming that there's actually an identity attached to it, heating will follow up, visit the area, just to try to investigate, learn more. On the days where Alliance, Heating's third-party consultant, is in town, Alliance will likewise do a real-time investigation. And Heating's employees are occasionally just driving around without complaints, just to see if there are any smells, just to make sure everything is going as it should be. So this month, on the specific dates that complaints were filed, on the 12th, Heating's consultant was on site that day. They didn't detect any asphalt odors off site, and Lou Rose is here this evening, and he'll run you quickly through their more recent findings with a little more specificity. Also, on each day of the complaints, Heating employees investigated the odors, and I gave you little summaries before about the interactions they had with a couple of the residents anyways, which were generally positive. And moving forward, as I said earlier, Heating's going to continue to look for ways to improve its plant, to further mitigate odor, and we're going to get into a little bit here the idea of fine-tuning that EcoZorb suppressant, which, as we described last time, was custom made for this facility. It seems to be working really well, but they'll continue to just play around with that and see if they can't get it working like that. So I'm going to hand things off to Lou here really quickly. These are the slides you saw last time, just describing Lou's company, Alliance, what they do generally, Lou's bio, kind of a summary of what Alliance has done historically, and then maybe Lou, you want to pick up there.
Yeah, we really don't know. Hello again, everybody. So since our involvement in 2023, so we just recapped last time, we came out, did an initial assessment at the facility, investigating the on-site odor sources, kind of ranking those as primary and secondary odor sources, and those primary odor sources we assessed and worked our way out from there towards the property boundary of the community. During 2023, we performed 4 more called odor surveys, where we come out, we started the facility, we're checking to make sure that the facility's in operation, that the potential odor sources are up and running. And then we're checking for odors in close to those sources, and working our way out to the property boundary, and then within the community downwind from there. So in 2024, when we got involved again, soon after PJP resumed operations, we're doing now a routine once-a-week visit based on meteorological conditions, and also based on the facility operating conditions. It's not effective for us to come out and investigate for odors when the facility is not operating. So we performed 4 of those visits in the month of May, and then 4 again now in the month of June, the last of which was, the most recent of which was last week. So one of the things that we're seeing here, just to change things up from last time a little bit, to go from a table to something maybe more visual and tangible here, is these are the dates of our visits in May. just the color coordination here is just showing that barely perceptible to very light perceptible odors are green. So this is less than 2 to a 2. A 2 is detectable in the field olfactometer. It's the lowest reading. A less than 2, just a reminder from last time, is when you can smell something with your naked nose, but it's not registered on the device at the lowest dilution, which is 2 dilutions of pressure. So as you can see, the stronger odors, so 15 and greater, are located centrally kind of in the area of the processing, mixing, and loading. And these were identified as the primary sources during our assessment last year. And looking at the progression of those odors and strength and the reduction as you're moving out to the property boundaries. Now there are other odors that we've observed within the community and even on site that are not asphalt related, but these odors in this depiction are only asphalt related odors for reference. So generally what we've seen in the month of May is some very light odors off site. You can kind of see the extent of the travel depending on which way the winds are blowing at the time. And the comparison to June, this is actually a table, this is June 5th. I just realized that on the other slide. So during the month of June, again, we performed 4 odor assessments both on the site and within the community. And generally what we've seen is a more concentrated locale of the higher odors. And off-site, we've seen that the odors seem to not be traveling quite as far. We've got less detections of asphalt odors off-site in the month of June versus the month of May.
Okay. Next. Yeah, so that sort of brings us to the end here. You know, as we mentioned here a couple times, we've had a real drastic reduction in complaints over the years since 2022, and specifically this year, from even opening of the facility late April or early May to the month of June. And again, that was 3 complaints in the entire month of June, and they were all described as just fleeting odors that came and went. The EcoSorb suppression agent has been used, as I mentioned, it's been in use really for more or less the entire month of June, if I'm not mistaken. All evidence points to that working as it's intended to work, which is to really tamp down any odors associated with the facility. We mentioned earlier the air quality plan approval from DEP, showed you the limits within there. I think it's just worth mentioning, by the way, the use of EcoSorb type suppressants is actually something that's required in that permit. So it's really a matter of doing what we've described, which is working within that permit, working with the board, listening to the residents, and trying to find the best product that's going to do the best possible job to tamp down that odors. And it seems like we've got a good one. The stack testing results were great. We'll get you the final results when we have them, but all initial indications are that they're going to be excellent. And other than that, we are just continuing to make improvements and do what we can to mitigate odors. So that's the report. Certainly happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Question? No?
I don't have it, Jim. I have one question, just about the EcoSorb, that is very specific to the asphalt, is it not? The chemical makeup, depending upon where you get the asphalt from, or where it comes from in the ground?
We tested it off of a specific source.
Okay.
So yeah. So for example, our initial work with EcoSorb was tested using an asphalt from the Irving company, and we are now working with EcoSorb to look at this. The Mass DOT requires on certain projects that we use different types of, different grades of liquid asphalt. So we're testing a polymer modified asphalt, which is a grade of asphalt that DOT requires, particularly where like heavy truck traffic, where so like 24-140, that grade of liquid asphalt might be a 64-28E versus this conventional 64-28 or 64-22. So we're working with EcoSorb on that. So what that is, that same liquid may come down from Canada, Nova Scotia, where the refinery is, on an Irving ship, and then it's blended with a polymer, and that changes the grade or the property of the liquid to prevent things like rutting. Or the liquid asphalt grades are also rated by like the 64 and the 28 refer to temperatures and a gradient there. So what is the band that it works in? So the farther north you go in New England, the type of liquid you use is different. But to your point, we've tested everything from Irving. We get a predominant amount of our liquid asphalt from Irving, but we have tested it. We've used the same product with a different source and seem to get similar results. So we'll continue to work with the refiner. So we're introducing the EcoSorb at the terminal in Providence or at the terminal in Newington, New Hampshire. So some of our trucks come down from Newington, New Hampshire to here. Obviously, from a carbon footprint standpoint and a logistics standpoint, it's far better for us to bring the material out of Providence, but based on liquid types and supply.
Yeah, I think mostly the question was how quick you can tweak, based on what you have. Because each load is different, right?
So we're introducing at the terminal.
Which is
So
good.
if for some reason Claudio or the team or Lou came back with a result, we could change next tanker coming to the job by just changing the dosing rate at the terminal. But at this point, we're really kind of staying very close to that dosing rate that was proven in the lab. But we're now looking at the polymer modified liquids to see how we do that, and that dosing rate may change, right? But when we make an order, Claudio, the plant operator, would call and say, hey, I want 3 loads of 64-28E for that DOT job, and based on what we know from the lab, we'll adjust the dosing rate.
Question on the day you did the testing, the DEQs there, how long were they there?
They were there during the entire process.
They were there for 2
2 out of the
days.
3?
2 days.
Yeah.
They came in the afternoon. They did a surprise. They came in through. They were happy to see what everything was going on. They wanted just to do a quick test. And then the following day, they were there from the morning until the last truck left. They were there all day. Yeah.
We did buy him pizza, that full disclosure.
Yes. Thank you. If there are no more questions from anybody on the board, then
Just one.
go ahead, Tom.
So you're saying that you were producing 400 tons per hour? Is that right?
On average, approximately, yes.
And the maximum 500?
Correct.
So you're sticking with that 400 for the...
I mean, we can go up a little bit, but the way the plant operates bestly, just like fuel efficiency in your vehicle, is to kind of bring it up and then run it at a steady temperature, right? When you're hard braking and hard foot on the pedal, your fuel efficiency drops. The efficiency of the asphalt plant is very similar, so we try to bring it up. But for the stack test, we're required to get it up to that level and run it, so.
And then your low rate is 300 tons?
I mean, again, we're an on-demand business, so, but Claudio tries to make sure that he runs, all of our plant operators try to run it consistently. So on our day's orders, if we have 3,000 tons, we want to bring the plant up and then run it steady at, say, 300 tons per hour, where we're storing it in the silos, because going up and down, we can get variability. We burn more fuel, so that's not good. We get variability in our mixes, so could have a quality issue with like liquid or gradation. So that's why we try to bring it up and run it steady at that number.
So during production, you're saying that you have somebody patrolling this area basically most of the time, or what is?
Well, no, I
when do
mean,
they- when do they check?
we don't have a.
All the time.
Yeah, we don't have a dedicated person to be everywhere all the time, but we certainly are reactive to it, and, you know, if there's a really strong odor at the plant and we see that the wind is blowing a certain direction.
So it's only when you have if there's a complaint? or-
No, I mean, if we felt, if a load, like, let's just say a load of liquid came in and there was a strong odor, the team would probably go out and look at that, and we may also call back to the refinery and be like, did you put the EcoSorb in? So, you know, there'd be a series of protocols there. When a tanker comes in, we typically have a ground person in the yard just go over and double check with the driver, make sure that they're all set with the offload, they've been to the facility before, following all the safety protocols with their PPE and all of that. So we kind of do that, and at that point, we would notice an odor just in the offloading process, right? So, does that answer your question?
How do you compute or come up with how much you're making? And when you do, like you say, you're running on 3 how do you come up with that number?
We have a daily schedule and orders, and then we kind of look historically at our walk-in trade. So we kind of try to make, based on the demand, and a lot of our customers that are coming in outside of our internal crews, we get a number from them. So, we could have a crew coming out of here paving in the town of Newport and one paving in the town of Dartmouth, or maybe even in Acushnet, and we know what we're trying to do for that scope of work that day. So whether it's 300 tons to do a small street, or it's 1,200 tons on a larger street like Acushnet Ave, and then a customer would call in too, because there's different types of materials that we're making, and we really need to know that, right? So there's a 3/4 stone, which is a binder, which is your lower course liquids or pavements. And then, if we're doing like a wearing course, that's going to be a 1/2 inch stone or 12/5. So we know what those orders are, and that gives Claudio the ability to run the plant and put the product in storage and then shut down, right? So if we know, now if the demand is high enough that he needs to run all day, then he's running all day, but he's switching, making some 19 millimeter or 3/4 stone. He's putting that in cans 1 and 2, and then cans 3, 4, 5, let's say, they're putting all 12/5 in that. So he's kind of managing the demand, and then as customers take it, we're communicating with the customer or our internal paving crews to say, how much more do you need? Because Claudio can tell how much is left in the silos themselves. So if we need to fire up again and make another couple hundred tons, then that's what we're doing.
So if you overmake by accident at the end of the day, you have to keep it heated at a certain temperature.
The silos are
So you can
lined.
use it for the next day.
That's correct. The silos are lined and heated, and that system is controlled. So yes, and in many cases we do produce today to have material ready to go tomorrow morning.
So,
No.
so while that's continued to be heated throughout the evening or whatever, is that producing odor throughout the night?
We're not aware that it is. I mean, it would be
You
captured.
You
Yeah.
would know that. And you,
Right.
You haven't experienced that?
Well, I mean, I think, as Lou said, there's residual odors on the property. Not all of it is liquid asphalt. It could be something else, right? It could be flowers, right? So there's the chance that there's a small odor emanating from the silos, but we're not identifying or detecting that it's beyond the property line. I mean, our process, just like roasting coffee, right? Cooking burgers at Burger King, all have have an owner as part of the process, right? We've just spent a lot of time and money and effort engineering and administrative controls.
Are you required to submit reports to DEP on a regular basis, or are you just required to log all your receipts so that if you audit it, as to how much you're producing?
We have annual emissions reporting that is submitted to DEP. DEP can walk onto the property any day unannounced and has the right to look at the required documentation in our logbooks. And if it's not correct, there would be enforcement action. So we had a paper, in Cranston, Rhode Island last year, we had a minor paperwork infraction where the slip wasn't where it's supposed to be, and we had to produce those documents back to Diamond. So we are always talking about the importance of training, documentation with the team. And I'm blessed to have a great team like Claudio and the people here in Acushnet, because they're super conscientious about that.
Then I go to the audience. Stand up and say it.
Douglas Thomas, obviously Acushnet, this new chemical agent, how much is being brought onto the property and how is it being stored on the property that's being stored, is my question.
Sure, so as I stated previously, the product is introduced at the terminal when we load liquid asphalt in Providence. That product, the liquid asphalt, is stored in the AC tanks until it's consumed. So it's not in a separate tote, it is in the asphalt tanks themselves.
What are you talking about?
I forget the dosing rate.
1 gallon.
Yeah, 1 gallon per asphalt ton, right?
Yeah. No, per tanker.
Per tanker.
I'm sorry.
What is the tanker hold?
32 tons of liquid.
32 tons. So relatively,
gallon?
yeah, relatively small amount. And we do it and one of the reasons we do it at the terminal is that we're getting turnover, right? We're getting a blending. As they add that in, the liquid drops onto that, then we're pumping it off, it's going into the tank. Then when we're using it again and putting it into the dryer, at the end of the dryer to coat the material, it's turning it over all the time.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, thank you.
So Christopher D'Souza, looking at, the only question I have is the board or the agent, can you verify the amount of complaints that are being, for instance, the month of June? Is that, yeah, I'm just curious, that was actual. It is, okay.
Now the complaint, is that through the portal, or is that include phone calls, when people call the office?
From time to time, but we haven't got it.
So it's always a 3 complaints.
Based on the PJP, based on the board's decision and the way that they're allowing PJP to operate, that is specific to having to come through the portal for them to be able to react. But if we do get one, I would definitely bring that to them.
Add that in. If you get one, do you have a direct contact for them to be able to let them know?
Yeah, and I would basically just go right to Jeff.
I think you have done that in May.
Yep.
You went right to me, and then I send them right over to the attorney.
Anybody else? Do you have anything else?
I think you're done, Mr. Chair, unless you have any more questions for us.
I do not. So with that being said, I'd like to schedule the next meeting. I think we tentatively set it, right? August 3rd, first Tuesday of August.
I had August 6th written down if that's not.
First Tuesday. Verify that?
6/2.
So I would like to get a motion to continue the matter for another public hearing, open to the public in general, I guess. 5 o'clock, August 6th, same time, same place.
Motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
We're now adjourned at 5:42.